Hello! Welcome back to the Celestine Light Esoteric Mystery School. Today's lesson will be part 2 continuation of the magical powers of crystals and minerals that we began in part 1. Please check out part 1 if you haven't already watched it. However, today's lesson, part 2, is a standalone segment where we will be talking about how the shape affects the magical properties of crystals and minerals. The point of it all is to help you build an awesome assortment of crystals and minerals that you can use as tools and to give you the knowledge of how to best use them. Please remember as I share the information in these lessons that there is much more to learn and know. Though this will probably be more knowledge than you'll likely find anywhere else, these lessons are only an introduction into the very, very big library of Celestine Light magic. Like color, there is an independent power in shape. When I say power, I mean that the shape alone, independent of the color or chemical composition, has the power to influence people in their thoughts, their emotions, and their actions. For instance, if you think of a heart shape, you automatically associate it with love and romance. If you make it a pink heart, that effect is amplified further. If you make it a pink heart out of either rose quartz, here's a sample of a rose quartz heart, or a pink cat's eye fiber optic heart, then the love and romance energy is amplified even more. Hearts made out of lepidolite with pink rubellite tourmaline crystals are also excellent for having to do with heart relationships. Now, we'll talk about this more in a few minutes, this particular stone. Now, the shape of a mineral can enhance and further amplify the purpose you're desiring to achieve, or it can act in opposition. So choosing the best shape for your purpose is actually quite important. Not including crystal shapes, which we're going to talk about in a separate lesson, there are 12 shapes to consider. Well, we're going to start with raw. When I say raw, I mean raw rough, just like you dig it up out of the ground. Minerals such as this piece of rose quartz, raw rough, or also here's a piece of rare raw gold muscovite. Let's get it here. See that beautiful sparkle of the gold muscovite. These are not crystals, but they are in their natural form, and they haven't had any color changes or shape changes by craftspeople, and they're very useful to help discover the foundation or core of a person or a challenge when they're aligned with the properties of the mineral and its color. Enchanted pyrite rough is another example. This is one of my favorite stones. Beautiful stone, pyrite rough. And it's very useful to help people remember and recommit to foundational principles such as beliefs, moral values, and family relationships, just to name a few. What mineral that you choose to use for the enchantment will depend upon what purpose you're trying to achieve. Let's look at natural crystals for just a minute. Enchanted crystals have so many uses that we'll need to have 2 separate lessons in the future just on crystals. One will be on the enchanted uses of the many types and colors and varieties of quartz crystals, such as amethyst or big natural and clear. And the second is going to be on other types of crystals that aren't quartz, such as this big almandine garnet. Now, this is an almandine garnet crystal from the Boy Scout mine up in Wrangell, Alaska. Now garnet comes in many different crystal shapes, and we'll talk about that in that lesson because each shape has a different purpose. We also have another lesson coming up on the huge magical benefits of combining crystals together with other crystals or minerals, such as this pyrite cube that's been combined with a smoky quartz crystal. Or another example is this gorgeous black tourmaline crystal that's been combined with turquoise. I'm not going to get into in this lesson what we use these for, but we will have a future lesson on the magical uses of combining different crystals and minerals together. There will also be a future lesson on the best enchanted crystals to use for healing work and how to use them for optimum effect. So let's talk a little bit more about hearts. Everyone already knows that a heart shape relates to love and relationship harmony. It's a great amplifier of those energies when combined with certain minerals that have been magically enchanted for specific purposes. For instance, a pyrite heart is excellent for establishing and maintaining a grounded relationship. Here's a good example of a pyrite heart. An enchanted rhodonite heart is great for deepening an already existing love relationship. An enchanted lepidolite heart with included pink rubellite tourmaline is wonderful for helping to restore harmony to a relationship and work through problems. So this, if you look closely at this, you'll see those specks of pink inside. Now that is the mineral tourmaline, but it's a special type of tourmaline. It's pink rubellite tourmaline. And it's that pink rubellite tourmaline that helps in the magical enchantment part to work through problems that relationships may be having. So when you go to find a heart made out of lepidolite, that's not that uncommon. But to find some that have a good number of the pink rubellite tourmaline crystals in there, that's a little harder to find. Now, an enchanted rose quartz heart can also be useful. It's a great heart to use if you're just starting a new relationship and you want to get it going. Use a rose quartz heart. If you have an already existing relationship that's kind of lost a little of the passion and you need to put some of that passion back, that's where a pink fiber optic heart comes in very handy. It holds that particular type of enchanted energy excellent. Now let's look at spheres. The sphere is a fantastic shape for radiating out magical energy evenly in all directions. It's great for helping to set the mood in a room and to align that mood with a purpose such as serenity, or to get people to take an action, or to have protection for that room. Pyrite spheres are useful to keep people grounded but still innovative. Here's a pyrite sphere, and you notice as you rotate it around that it has a lot of openings where you see crystals inside of the pyrite. Well, that's the part that's the innovation part. So the more solid part, that's the keeping grounded portion of the enchantment. And then the openings with the crystals inside, that's all the innovations and ideas for new things and new directions. Pyrite hearts pyrite spheres are great for that purpose. Now, also, another sphere that I just want to introduce you to is blue goldstone, because it does have a wonderful property for enchantments. Now this is a nice, good sized blue goldstone sphere, and you can see all those beautiful sparkles inside. If you enchant this sphere to help you astral travel, you will probably astral travel that night and remember it. It's very potent when it's enchanted for astral traveling. Now let's also look at the pyramid shape, because this is very common. Everybody knows the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Now pyramids are an amazing shape, and they have a potent energy even when they're not enchanted. Now, studies have shown that fruits and vegetables kept under a pyramid will last longer. I've seen experiments where raw milk did not go bad when it was left under a pyramid. In 1959, a man even patented the pyramid shape for sharpening dull razor blades. For magical purposes, pyramids cut and polished out of minerals can be powerfully enchanted to amplify the mineral's natural resonance and best purpose, and to focus that resonance into a powerful beam like a laser beam shooting up out of the tip of the pyramid. Pyramids are so good at this ability that most people, even those who totally do not believe in magic, can easily feel the beam of energy if they just run their open palm about an inch or so above the top of an enchanted pyramid. Now, if you're inside a room, this effect has more benefit than if you're outside. Inside, when you have an enchanted pyramid, whatever energy you've enchanted it for, that magical energy is amplifying as it goes up the pyramid's shape and comes out the tip, and then it shoots out like a laser beam, and it goes up to the roof of the room, and then it spreads out, and then all that magical energy rains down, completely covering the entire room. So when you have an enchantment that you want to really thoroughly cover the room with, it's great to use a pyramid. Now, eggs are the next thing we're going to look at. Eggs are not really very useful for magical purposes. I mean, they can be enchanted, they can be used, Here's an example of an egg. But because they're different size on that end compared to that end, some eggs are cut even more severely in an egg shape. They don't have a good flow of energy. They don't really work well for most magical purposes, but they do have one upside. Because they can, when they're enchanted, they will emanate the magical energy slowly and weakly. Well, that means that magical energy that's in them is going to last longer than, say, for instance, a very powerful crystal that's going to really put out a great force of magical energy, but it's also going to expend it sooner because it's putting out more in a more forceful way. Let's look at cabachions next. Now, these are most often called cabs. The reason is because cabachion is a mouthful of a word to say. Cabs are typically either ovals, like this malachite cab, or also they can be cut into rounds, like this little round jasper cab. Those are the typical shapes you're going to find them in. Next, let's look at faceted stones. Faceted stones are normally a totally clear stone, or they may be clear but have a color to them, such as this one here. And you see how all the light reflects off all those facets inside? Well, that's basically the purpose of a faceted stone, is to catch the light and to refract it back and forth through the top of this is called a table. So it's make it go back and forth through the table. The main benefit of faceted stones in magic isn't their shape necessarily, but the fact that they're usually made from very high quality specimens of the mineral. As a general rule with all stones, the higher quality of the mineral, the more enchanted energy it can hold. However, there is also a good benefit to the facets, especially with clear stones or those that are lightly colored like this one. Just like the many facets bounce the light inside around, they also help to really activate the magical energy that was imbued into the stone. The effect increases the power of the magic and also the potency of its effect on people, both the person who may be wearing that particular facet stone, a piece of jewelry, and also any others nearby if that's the purpose of the enchantment. Let's look next at columns. Here's a rose quartz column that I actually use every single day. I lay this on my desk and I just spin it around and around with my hand, and it's very good for putting out a soothing energy, particularly when you're trying to concentrate on something and you want to just have your mind really clear and be able to be calm and concentrate on the subject. Well, rose quartz columns are excellent for that, but you can also get columns out of other materials. And the benefit of columns is they're kind of like spheres in that they have no sharp edges, no angles, it's all rounded. It's a feminine energy. And it's because it's all rounded, all smooth, it lets out a calm and peaceful energy with nothing harsh, very useful. But on the other hand, because it's a column, it does have a shape. It's not like a sphere that's all round and all the same in every direction. It does have a shape. So this directional shape is useful when you're trying to have the flow of concentration and ideas, which is why I use it a lot when I'm trying to think up something new. Let's look next at tumbled polished stones. Tumbled stones are rough stones that they've put into a special barrel. Normally it's rubber lined, and they put some grinding grit in the barrel, and they slowly turn this barrel with a little motor over a period of days to grind the stones down to a nice smooth shape. They take out all the grinding grit, they toss in some polishing compound, and then they polish them up nice and shiny. Here's a couple examples of tumbled stones. Here's a green malachite. Here's a green goldstone. Oh, here's a pretty, one of my favorite turquoise stones. And here's a piece of silver hematite. Now, tumbled stones are similar to eggs in that they're not terribly useful for magic under most circumstances. However, there are some big exceptions where they can actually be very useful for magic. One is if they are extra large stones, much larger than you would typically find in a store. And the other is if they're made from very rare minerals. And lastly, and most importantly, is if they've been enchanted by the combined force of 3 Celestine Light Adepts in a circle of power. Now let's look at fossilized animals or plants. Now, you can find, for instance, amber is a great example. Amber was once flowing tree sap, but at some point in its progression, its evolution, it became amber, fossilized tree sap. And if you wanted to do an enchantment to help your garden grow better, amber would be an excellent choice. When it was part of a living tree, it was like the blood of the tree, bringing in nutrients. You can also, if you have, for instance, say you have an old growth virgin forest near your house that they're thinking about logging, and you want to help stop that from happening. Well, a good thing for that would be a piece of petrified wood. This is a slice of a piece of petrified wood. This was once a living tree, now it's solid stone. So if you were, for instance, trying to stop logging, creating a spell or enchantment to that purpose and imbuing it into a piece of petrified wood, particularly a slice of an old log, would create a powerful magical energy for that purpose. Now, if you're using magic to have an effect on something in the sea, as another example, then you might want to use something that was fossilized as a mineral from the sea. So here's, for instance, a giant barnacle. You can see it's filled up with petrified mud. Well, normally you couldn't probably think of many uses for a giant barnacle full of petrified mud, but if you're doing a spell or enchantment that has to do with the sea, that can be very useful. It came from the sea. Let's look now at some uncommon shapes that you will encounter and are very useful in magic for when you're using minerals or crystals. Now there's 3 uncommon shapes that are very important in magic. One is the cross, like this, and the next is an X, which is just a cross that's turned 45 degrees. The cross or X shape can be cut from many different kinds of minerals, and it can also be found in certain rare crystals naturally, such as starlight. The cross orientation, for instance, is very useful if you have 4 different energies or purposes that you're trying to merge into one. For instance, if you had 4 people that need to get in sync for the same purpose, that's going to draw them all together and help them harmonize and find a place of harmony where they can all be on the same line together. It can actually be used with less or more people as well. I'm just using 4 as an example. Now the 4 legs of the cross, they pull in all the conflicting energies and help them to harmonize and focus with common intent together to achieve a goal or purpose. When you rotate that cross 45 degrees, then you get an X. An X is very open to receiving magical energy to discover the location of hidden objects, particularly those objects if they're natural minerals or elements. For instance, a starlight crystal combined with a small gold nugget and enchanted to help find gold would work very, very well for that purpose if you're out in the wilderness. Another specialized shape that you see from time to time are crystal skulls. They can be cut out of other minerals, but quartz crystal is the most common and the most useful for magical purposes, at least for white magical purposes. They are super helpful for anyone who's working as a medium to help make clear contact with people that have died and passed on into other realms. They're also useful for the same purpose for anyone that on their own wants to contact a deceased loved one. Now, the other special shape that we want to talk about before we're done with today's lesson is the spiral, which is not found in a crystal form, but it's quite common in shells. Now, shells actually are minerals. They're principally the element calcium in one form or another, and certain ones can be powerful magical tools, as powerful as any crystal. Spirals serve a variety of magical functions. Here's an ammonite, an opalized ammonite shell. Now, these can be laid flat on a surface, or they can be displayed on a stand, so it's up at an angle. But if you look on the other side of this ammonite shell, you can see inside all the chambers as the original living shell grew. These are all fossilized now, and it's little pieces of calcium inside. And it's very helpful to help anyone nearby to stay focused on one step at a time as they work toward any goal or on a project. Now let's also look at another shell that's very useful in magic, and that's a Terebra shell. Here's an example of one. Now, Terebra shells serve an entirely different magical purpose from the ammonite shell. Their natural spiral shape is enhanced by having the thin part of the shell removed, cut out, so that the thicker part remains in the spiral shape. This allows a concentrated line of magical energy to flow through the shell, amplified more and more powerfully as the shell tapers to that very sharp tip. This shell's natural shape is an excellent angle for use as a wand, especially when it's combined with the enhanced natural spiral. Because it's made from a form of calcium, which is a mineral that the human body needs in abundance. In fact, calcium is the #1 mineral your body needs versus vitamins and minerals. It's very useful as a magically enchanted wand for those who are in the healing business. So if you're a healer, a magically enhanced Tariba shell will be very helpful for you. That's all for this lesson. Thanks for watching. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel to get notification of new classes. Our next lesson will be on crystals and minerals that have special properties that can really help your magic. Namaste, my brothers and sisters. Until next time.